nonchalant at their seat.
Can you clarify that question?
Sure.
We're
In other
the
words,
Toastmaster introducing them?
Yes, in other words, I'm the Toastmaster, and I'm introducing the speaker, and he's a fantastic speaker. I love him, and yet I'm standing here saying, Jordan Kamaker is a professor, and he's got all this knowledge, and he's got all these great hand gestures, and he is fabulous. And meanwhile, he's over here, sitting there. Now we know this is not true, Jordan Kamaker, but if he were to be sitting there, what is he projecting? That he's not interested in getting up here? Is there any excitement and enthusiasm?
Well, it's not congruent with what you're saying about it, because he's sitting there.
Exactly.
Like a lot almost, and you're telling everybody he's this, he's that, he's.
Right. So let me ask the speech crafter over here, what would be your advice be for an evaluator or for a speaker when they are about to be introduced?
Well, I mean, did you guys hear me say it during my talk?
Yes.
What is the speaker? How is the speaker when I'm introduced? Where's the speaker? Yeah. So I mean, I covered that. Same thing with the evaluator. Just be ready. Yeah.
And I just want to reiterate some of these things because sometimes we don't take it all in. And I've been a member of this club for 44 years, and I'm still learning from Jeff Rufinock, and I'm learning from Blake Smith, I'm learning from Sandra, okay? We never stop learning, and that's the key to growing, because we can always learn something from other people. And when Jeff had given, well, let me rephrase this. I want to jump ahead to evaluations. And Jeff did a speech, and he's great at giving evaluations. Always pay attention to Jeff and Tim and the experienced ones. And what Jeff had mentioned to me and to the group in a speech is that even when someone gives a very poor speech, you don't want to hammer them on, if I understood and my takeaway on it, you don't want to hammer them on what they did poorly. You want to say things in a positive way. Even if they said a lot of uhs, they said 15 uhs throughout a 5-minute speech, I would believe that Jeff would come up here and say, wow, you have really improved. I remember your first speech when you had 32 uhs. It's done in a positive way. And that's when people take it in. And so, from that standpoint, I've always remembered how positive you are with your evaluations. You always find things to look at. Yes, sir?
One of the things that I would like y'all to take away, please, from Tim's evaluation speech, and I can't impress this on everyone enough. I'll bet at least 15 times he talked about areas of improvement. It's all about constructive criticism, but he never once said anything about what the speaker did wrong. He talked about how they can improve, okay? Because if you're introducing a negative into it, all of a sudden that speaker's going to turn it off. There's going to be some members of the crowd that are going to turn it off, but yeah, you know, this was good, but to improve it, you could do X, Y, and Z. And that's when he said your job is to make them a better speaker, and then the trophies are going to follow. Don't worry about the trophies. Worry about making that speaker a better speaker by helping them improve. So hopefully that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yes? No?
Yes.
Look at the ceiling, looking for
Yes.
Okay. But that's probably the most important thing in an evaluation is how you put it. It's all going to be constructive. Improvement was great. And by the way, that MARS acronym was cool too. I like that.
And remember, everybody's there to, improve, but they need to be able to enjoy coming back. You crush somebody under heel, they're not going to want to be there for much longer. So, these are some great things you did, but what I really want to focus on, here's some things that you can improve upon, And I like how a couple of the evaluators, a couple of Toastmasters come up. I challenge you with your next speech, do this. Add this specific thing in. Now you've given them not only some tangible things that they can improve upon, but you've given them a call to action now. Now you can take this, here's one big thing that you can add into your next speech. That's huge. I love it when I get that one. It's like, okay, here's that one thing that is way outside my comfort zone usually.
If I give a caveat to that, I'm just gonna say grade on a curve. I'm not gonna evaluate you all the same way I evaluate you all. There are gonna be things that you all may do and you don't know better, and you all know better. And one of my best evaluations, Chris Peterson shredded me. He got up, caveat, he said, Jeff's been around. Jeff's a good speaker. I would not evaluate you newbies the way I'm about to evaluate Jeff. Then the gloves came off. He ripped me apart. And I was perfectly fine with it because he was right. I can't tell you how many people came up and apologized to me on his behalf. I can't believe he said that. I'm like, why? He was right. Oh, that was so mean. Like, it wasn't mean, it was accurate. He's right. I've been slacking. And that made me step up, and then my next speech went all the way to district. So, but if you are gonna chainsaw somebody, only chainsaw somebody if they know better, because sometimes it's good for tough love, and if you do it, give a caveat that, hey, here's what I'm about to do. Jeff knows better. I'm not gonna evaluate you like I'm about to evaluate Jeff. I remember it was a charter member's daughter, and she did not come back after this, which is a bad lean-in for me saying I evaluated her. But she got up, I've never seen anything like this. She didn't even qualify her. She read like an auctioneer. She never looked up. She read this like this, and then she sat down. She didn't shake hands. She sat down. The guy next to me leans over and goes, "Good luck with that." And what I was able to do, and this is to Blake's point and to Ty's point, I was able to get up and say, and this was truthful. This isn't, don't ever lie. Don't get, oh, what a great job. It wasn't a great job. Don't say it was if it wasn't. But I was able to get up and say, listen, 2 parts, content and delivery. Your content was amazing because she gave me a copy beforehand. I've read over this content. This is everything an icebreaker should be. You're supposed to help us to get to know you. You have done that with what you have written here with your content. Delivery. Next time I would consider slowing down a little bit. Maybe consider some eye contact. Again, this is someone that read like an auctioneer and never looked up once. I'm not going to say to her, oh my gosh, you read your speech. We couldn't even understand you. Is this an auction? What's going on? You didn't even look up. You didn't even shake hands. I'm not going to do that because I'm going to meet her where she is. And to me, that's the art of this. There's an art and a science. And the art is to meet every speaker where they are. That's why I love evaluating, because no 2 evaluations are the same.
The worst evaluation I've ever heard started off with, that speech was terrible. And that person didn't come back either.
The evaluator or the speaker?
The speaker. The evaluator, because he went on to tear him up. But the evaluator learned a lesson and actually made phone calls to the person he evaluated to tell him to come back, not to let that cancel his Toastmaster experience. I think with evaluating, people say, you should have done this, or next time you should do this. I'm not crazy about that word should. I like things like, suggestion might be X. Perhaps you may want to consider this or that. That just puts the idea into them, plants the idea, and it gives them the ability to make that decision whether they're going to take advantage of that or not. Same thing when I write my evaluation slips. I've done my share of this, haven't I?
Once.
What do you learn? Get better.
And to get better at learning.
And to tag team on what Carmelo just said is the fact that we do, it's easy to fall into that trap because when we concentrate on us instead of what the message is, the takeaway is that you want your audience to have. And that makes no difference whether you're the speaker, whether you're an evaluator, whether you're the Toastmaster of the day. It's not about you. It was like at the 60th anniversary, and I made the comment, it's not about you, because it's not about you. You're the conduit. And the better conduit you are, the more everyone else can say, wow, look at Jeff Rufino. Man, he's got scads of trophies in his home. He says it in such ways that I could never think about. But it's because he doesn't make it about him. He makes it about other people. Yes.
Just so you don't mistake what you're hearing. Some of us have been around and we've gotten pretty fair at doing this. It's because we have all absolutely tanked at every single one of these positions. I have given evaluations that made the garbage dump smell nice. I got slammed by Carl Ryder one time. I had an idea in my mind this was going to be a good speech. It stunk up the joint, but I kept on going anyhow. And he let me know that I probably missed several good opportunities to sit down. So it happens. It just happens. And so don't be afraid to fall on your face.
Yes.
Because that is where the joy and learning is. And then when you get together, you remember, it's like, oh, you remember that time I did this? Remember that time I did that? We get together at, around the campfire sometimes and we start talking about these debacles. And it's just a laugh, because all it is a hiccup. And
What's the worst that can happen?
yeah. So don't be afraid to fail with this crew, because we
all do it.
just love watching you succeed, and we'll be there for you for that too.
Yeah.
I think failure should be the goal.
Yeah.
You want to stretch yourself, taking what Jeff said, the bullet points, all this, writing the whole speech out. If you're comfortable, really comfortable with writing your speech out, and you can memorize it,
Rock on.
that's great. I challenge that person to write an outline and take a risk. Take a risk. Learn how to put your stories together without notes. Just have an outline. If you in check, if you do
Vignettes.
yes, and then you look at the lights, and if you're not where you think you ought to be, when the yellow light goes on, then you just modify, because no one's gonna know what you didn't say. And if you fail at it, you're gonna learn something, I promise you.
And if you really want to learn something, if you are really eager to get good feedback, the one must you have to do when you're in a speech, call your evaluator, figure out who they are and have a conversation, let them know what it is you are specifically looking for. The evaluator will be able to hone in on that. Don't wait until the day of the speech. Get a hold of them a week ahead of time.
And if I can target what Sean had said in his presentation about the timer, I find the timer position to be the hardest for me to do, because I get involved in those. And if you're a Blake Smith or a Jordan Kamenker or Jeff Rufinoff, you've got it down and you know where you should be when that green light comes on. And there's been a few times when I'm sitting there and thinking, wow, what a great speech. And just like what you mentioned, the time goes on and that throws them off as far as their pacing and their clothes and so on. So we've got our final presenter this evening.
Ty, I got one comment. One comment about that. Somebody mentioned about memorizing your speech. Try not to memorize your speech. Because when you do that, if you mess up one thing in the middle of it, your whole speech will go right out of your head. And I saw this with, I won't say her name right now, Linda Miller, but anyway, she gave a great speech and she was halfway through it and all of a sudden I just watched her, it disappeared.
Yep.
It completely disappeared and she had to walk up front and look at her notes. So write an outline, memorize the outline. Don't try to memorize the whole speech because you won't be able to do it. And also, if you write out every word of your speech, and I've done this, you write out every word of your speech and lay it on the lectern, you start reading it. And it's horrible. I watch myself sometimes and I look down every 3 or 4 seconds because I'm reading the speech. And it's terrible. It does not go well. Even if it's a good speech, I get dinged by looking down too much. So don't do that.
That's a great point. What if your mind goes blank?
Yeah,
And you're looking for the cliff to jump off.
right.
You're looking for the manhole to jump into.
And to Linda Miller's credit, she came back And you did that speech again.
She did.
And won the trophy.
Yes, she did.
So, on a funny note, we had a.
Carmelo was still
One
talking.
second, one second.
Oh, I'm sorry.
What do you do when that happens? You wait. You
Take-
breathe
Take a breath.
and you wait, even if it takes 25 seconds, which might seem like 10 minutes or an hour. It will come back to you, promise you. It will come back to you.
And don't apologize.
No.
Yeah.
Don't apologize. You don't know your speech. That
It-
pause
it'll
could have been
almost-
intentional.
It'll almost always come back to you, as long as you're not 76. Okay.
So
Our
on
next presenter.
a funny note, just on